He's getting as many phone calls from Democrats as Republicans who want Congress to dig in over health care.
Even for folks on the left who were in love with the idea of the new health care law, they're the ones ringing the phones and coming into my office now saying, do you understand what you're doing to my spouse's, my children's access to health coverage?
When we hit the streets in Phoenix, we got an earful from people who blame both parties for the lockdown.
Childish, just they're not really trying to, neither side is trying to really do what's best for, everyone.
I have a pretty low opinion of Congress at this point.
Most people we talk to just want lawmakers to figure this out sooner than later.
I definitely don't blame the Republican Party. I think they all need to figure out how to compromise.
Well, it's enough to make your head spin, right? What is really going on in D.C.? Congressman David Schweikert joined us via satellite to share some of his insight and frustration about the government shutdown. President Obama has said in recent days this whole thing is about one thing, the Republican obsession with the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah, and I actually believe that's absolutely untrue. If you really want to dig down into what's really going on at base level, the rumor all around Capitol Hill is that this has become a fundraising opportunity. And I know this sounds one-off, but the reality of it, much of the speechifying, to call it, you see going on the floor of the House on the Democrat side has been loading up their coffers with online contributions. And that's incredibly cynical because you start to think of why would someone be motivated not to even assign a conference committee just to have a conversation?
Well, as you know, the polling is out, and right now, 72% of Americans are saying they disapprove of shutting down the government. Many blame the Republicans.
Mm-hmm. Well, and look, we all disapprove of shutting down the government. That's the point. That's actually why we keep offering up pieces of legislation. Just a couple hours ago, we sent over the funding for the VA. We've done bill after bill after bill, and Harry Reid, this Democrat control of the Senate, keeps taking our pieces of legislation and shoving them in the drawer. You can't run a constitutional government if one side doesn't actually show up for the discussion. I genuinely believe the solution is a big deal. That we have the debt ceiling, we have our concerns about individual fairness in regards to the new health care law. There's got to be a way to put this all together and do a big deal.
I was going to ask you, even if agreement is reached right now, what happens just a few weeks down the road? We're going to be back at it again in talking about the debt ceiling, another big battle.
Yeah. Well, but it doesn't need to be. The fact of the matter is, there's the members like myself who've actually 6 weeks ago put up a piece of legislation saying, look, you do have a debt ceiling alternative. There's ways you can dice up our shortfall for 2014. And forgive me for throwing numbers at you, but we're going to take in about $3.1 trillion in 2014. We need somewhere around 3.7 to finance the government for 2014. That margin is our shortfall. There's different ways to deal with it, whether it be the liquidation of certain assets, taking interest and putting it in its own capital account. And I'm hoping actually that becomes what we do together as saying, let's be creative. Let's come up with a solution that works for America, not for the politics.
Well, Eric Cantor sent out a memo saying essentially the Democrats will cave. So he was essentially saying to all the Republicans, don't cave first. That doesn't sound very symbiotic to me.
Well, but you got to understand, think about what Eric Cantor has had to put up with. He's had to put up with a majority leader and a president who basically say, we're not negotiating at all. We won't have a discussion. We won't send over someone to listen to your ideas. How do you negotiate with a partner on the other side, as the Constitution calls for, when they won't even show up?
A lot of people are saying at this point the Republicans have to save face, that you guys have to come away with something. So specifically, what is that something? Much has been made of the possibility of the repealing of the tax on the medical devices.
Well, for myself, this is actually more about fairness. The fact of the matter is this president gave a special deal to big business, to big labor, and functionally has stuck it to the little guy. We really do believe we should delay the individual mandate for a year, and at the same time make sure members, in Congress and our staff, all of us, follow the law as it's written. No more special deals handed out by this president. I don't know how you get more fair than that. And that's actually what we're striving for. And I'm just shocked the Senate and this president aren't willing to come to the table and even have that discussion about fairness.
Do you understand that the American people, I'm sure you're out talking to people and you reach out to the folks in your districts, people are upset, they're mad, and they feel, it's been described to me as it's like a bunch of kindergartners on the playground refusing to talk to one another.
You nailed it. The fact that you actually just got it. They are acting like children for not showing up and talking to us. All we're asking, think of this, the last proposal we pushed out was a conference committee. Just show up in a room and have a conversation. And think of this, the Democrats wouldn't even send a member of the Senate to walk down the hallway and have a conversation. It's basically childhood